Good Wednesday morning to you. It's July 28th. It's going to be hot today. It's the best I've ever seen a purple coneflower or echinacea bloom in a pot. Looks pretty good. Well, it's been a busy season, a successful season. We still, of course, have a lot going on. Those are black elephant ears. That angel wing begonia has outdone itself. Just kind of the porch display. There's the mosquito plant. He's outgrown his pot. I lost count, but I think there's 60 or so plants up here. Lots of things have gone to bloom. August is just a scant few days away. And I'm kind of getting tired, but excited anyway. There's my avocado that I started this year. He's come up, and that's a volunteer pepper. He's got blooms. Looks like it might be a banana pepper. I'm not sure how it got there, but there she is. I don't think I've ever shown the kiwi vine. It's 6 or 7 plants that I started by seed many years ago. Unfortunately, I guess I don't have a male, so I don't ever see any blooms. Haven't ever seen any fruit. It's pretty awesome though. It's kind of a privacy. And this is one of my wicking buckets. That's the hyssop. It's still got one little drop of color on there. About done blooming. That's a perennial in the wicking bucket. And there's the lovage, which is like perennial celery. And behind it is a Brussels sprout from last year. I got to cut that out. The bugs have had a heyday, and that's pineapple sage. Look forward to that blooming later in the year. And there's the grandchildren toys and the rhubarb. I just picked over a pound of rhubarb out of that last night or evening, dark 30, and been difficult to keep up with the mowing. As usual, we're feast or famine on the rainfall. In the first 18 days of July, we had about 8.4 inches of rain, which is about double for the month of July on average. And now, today will make 10 days without rain. Again, uneven. Sorry for wobbling there. But uneven rainfalls, not preferable when it comes to the gardening. We're good on water. Of course, our number of plants that we have in containers for sale is a lot less. The echinacea has done okay this year. It's beginning to fade. Probably time to cut that whole bed back. Some wood chips that I make for the garden. And these are items that could go to the farmer's market today. We took about seven bushels, I don't know, hard to quantify, but about that to the farmer's market. Actually, it's being placed out on the tables under the tent as we speak. And still have chard going on there, and the kale in the lower section didn't fare real well. Again, bug attacks. It's hard to keep all the cabbage moths and stuff at bay. And of course, that earlier in the season was full of lettuce, and now it's about empty. I think we've tried to re-sow that, but when it gets hot and dry, a lot of times it's not easy to get it to come up. And this bed early in the season was spinach. And when the spinach bolted and came out, then we put a lot of basil in there. We pulled a couple of celery plants out sold those, or well, it's like a plant, but, and their sage is still back there, and catnip. That's the huge blooms behind the sage or catnip. This bed was mustard greens, and this was the third regular green bean sowing that I did. These haven't started producing, but you can see that they're starting to run. You can probably see a couple of blooms. Yeah, there's a bud right there trying to start. And you can tell that I picked out of these yesterday the first picking of green beans. I didn't go overboard. I think we picked about a peck and a third. That's 5 little rows in that bed that we had radishes in the earliest part of the season. So kind of a huge, daunting little patch of tenderette green beans. Those are tenderettes. Also, the garlic bed used to be here, and I'm in the midst of tearing it out. Have to sift it all out. You'd be surprised how much garlic seed is still in there. Let's see. Yeah, see it right there. Just move a little bit of dirt and boom. So I'm going to rebuild the whole bed, make it all new, but I'm taking all the old out and starting fresh. Still got the nasturtiums kicking over here. Nice nasturtium bloom. And again, this whole entire plant is edible. You can eat the leaves, you can eat the blooms, and that's very tempting actually to just snap that off and eat it, but I'll leave it. And there's kale. This time of year is not looking that great. It was wonderful 6 weeks ago, but we're still getting some off of it, and there's some chard in there, and we have resown some kale, so you can see that that's kind of coming up. And that big purple is Purple Ruffles basil, and we don't plant those, they just come back or reseed themselves, and that's mostly a catnip back there. And more kale, flanked by lots of purple ruffle basil. And this lettuce bed we've worked on a lot. That catnip's pretty huge. It's just a little plop planted in the corner with all the bumblebees. Good morning, bumblebee. All the bees really love that. That's one reason we let the catnip grow, is because it will attract pollinators to the garden. I think you can see it's just right there only is where, wow, look at the stalk on that thing. It smells wonderful. Alrighty, didn't cut out the yucca blooms, and those are all seed pods. I had to get that cut out. Those are full of seeds. And another bed that was spinach early in the season, and we did put lettuce back in there. And another catnip. They're pretty disposable. Okay. I will say I made a video earlier in the month, but I never uploaded it. I went long-winded. 27 minutes it shut off, and I never uploaded it. I might do that and then put it as a pinned comment, a link to the video earlier in the month that got cut off prematurely. You can tell the way it ends at 27 minutes that I wasn't anywhere near done. Anyway, that's the pepper patch. That back there is a nectarine tree. In the years it's been there, it's only produced 3 or 4 nectarines. Usually the late frost gets it. But you got the cayennes up here in the front, and down there in the grass are the super chilies. And I just ran the tiller through here a couple of days ago, and then we got a good many jalapenos, and there's banana peppers, and there's some bell peppers on the back row. Finally, you get to see the pennyroyal blooming. Look at the purple blooms all over that, and the stuff smells so good. You can use it actually to make like a pest repellent. So if you don't like to use DEET, you could use like a little garlic and some pennyroyal and make a spray out of it and help to keep the bugs away. And that's the peach tree. We've had a couple of really good years off of that tree. We have a few others in other places on the property. And here's where a storm blew down a hickory tree out of the woods. I got to cut that out. I've started cutting off the limbs. And this is kind of a blackberry thicket. I better watch out, there could be snakes. But I usually wear boots and go in there. I picked, I don't know, a few gallons of blackberries this year. I'm going to go to the shade, and then I can see what we're actually looking at. Our squash patch is getting toward done. There's some of these back here that are dead. Of course, you can't hardly keep up with the squash bugs, but I can't tell you how many bushels of squash have come out of this little patch. It's been quite a bit. And the unique spaghetti squash are about done. Maybe we'll end up getting a few more of the acorns off that end row. And then you've got the patty pans. Pick off this bloom. Of course, we harvested, so there's not a lot out here at the moment. And this garden patch is embarrassingly weedy, but the saving grace is the amount of stuff that's come out of it. I haven't pulled tomatoes out for a couple of days. About on average, I get about a half a bushel a day. And I think it's getting toward about a month that we've been picking. And there's still quite a bit out there. So you can just kind of get an idea. They look horrible. When you get those periods of, 8 or 10 days in a row where it rains every day, the weeds just get out of control. And I've weeded in there a couple of times, but next year I think I'm going to use the felt. And the cucumbers. Actually, they look horrible, but I got a lot out of them this time. And again, it's the 8 inches in less than 3 weeks. 4 inches of that really actually came in one day, and then 10 days now with no rain. So you can still see lots of blooms though, and they're crawling the fence. Okay, and this is kind of where I was going when it cut off last time. I was pointing out the wild plum bushes. We have several of those. There's one, and there's another one or two behind it, plus this one here. And then I wanted to show you my new stand of, I got mowing to do. This is yellow wax beans. They haven't been all that long sown, really. And they look pretty good. Got some blooms coming on, some runners here and there. They're supposed to be more of a bush bean, but they'll sometimes run. And where they can, they'll grab a hold of the fence and go up it. Perhaps that'll mean more production for us. Good morning, neighbors. And the greenhouse is not really a focal point this time of year. We do still have a few things. I don't think it's been but maybe a week since I put these tomatoes in this wicking bucket. Those look pretty good. And this is that chard. I'm trying to let it make seeds. And there's a couple of small tomato plants in this wicking bucket that had the onions in it. You can see that's the bloom stalk. These were up on the deck, but they got put away. That's a nice close-up of a pretty chard plant, which is really a beet. And I've taken some of our leftover super chili plants and made kind of a patio pepper plant. And I believe those two back there are jalapenos. Leftover peppers. And they'll produce even in the little pots. They're not very big, but you know. Anyway, so the greenhouse is basically empty except for supplies. There's my last 6-pack of celery, some caladiums. They're just coming up. We have big ones that we've sold. Those are the echinacea or purple coneflower. And some other perennials. Well, really the parsley is not a perennial. Okay. And my lemongrass in the wicking bucket. I didn't think it would necessarily do it, but there it is. It's not as thick as it was last year, but it did come back, so that's plenty for us. And that table on the left has tomato plants that are mostly done. I've got to throw those out. And my other wicking bucket, that's a giant curled parsley. I'm attempting to let it go to seed. And some marigolds that sort of volunteered. And I didn't water my lemon verbena. This smells just like the lemon drops that you get at the movie theater. And this is a decent table's worth of plants, some calendula and begonias and impatiens and some leftover tomatoes and a couple of peppers, lavender. And I'm working on this as a celery project. They seem to root better in the red cans, but I'm not finding that the plants really excel in there. And here's another experiment on celery that's left over, and this looks like it's going to work out real well. Somebody gave me their Tidy Cat buckets, 3 or 4 of them, and I filled it with water, and this is like a 12-pack, real deep. And down here in the shade, these guys seem to really like that. I think that's going to be successful, but we'll see. A long way to go. And celery is fairly cold tolerant, so it can go into the fall. And this celery project, this part of it, I don't feel has gone real well. We've harvested a few out. I mean, you can see that it is celery, but it's not very big. It does a lot better in the ground. Some more of the coffee cans. And like this one, I don't think has any roots at all. But that one does. Wow. And that much root, but yet that's all we've got on the top. And for whatever reason, perhaps because the water level is lower inside there, this particular batch has done the best. So kind of learn as you go. The straight line's okay, and you can see that, you know, they do have some roots going on there. And it's already time to start thinking about the firewood. I see that other people are stacking new wood for the fall and the winter, and I went ahead and saw my guy and ordered a 4 ricks, I think it was. Okay. And to keep my time reasonable, I'm at 20 minutes. Try to wrap it up here in a minute, but I wanted to show this is my late yellow squash. That, like the yellow wax beans, that hasn't been in there very long, but it looks really good. I'm very pleased. Quite uniform. And this is what I call the back garden. And at the beginning of it, there are a few pepper plants, 3 different varieties, 1 variety in each of the 3 different rows. I believe it's jalapenos, cayennes, and bell peppers. And actually I got some green beans off of these. These are like the tenderettes, like are in the beds. And I got some off there. Got a few tomatoes going on, I believe. I'm pretty sure this is a German Johnson. See the tomatoes there. You can see how thick that stalk is. It's a variety of leftovers. I like it when the blooms are real big like that. And then the rabbits, or a rabbit, I think, chewed my peas. This was all mostly peas, and they're mostly gone. You can see the stalk on that one. That's the celery. And that plant's all eat down to the ground. They ate on my okra too. I've got okra back there. And the peas are blooming. You can see that. Actually, I cut my first pot of okra yesterday. Just 1. But there's a few blooms coming on. And there's a spot behind the tall stuff over there that the rabbit ate. So you can't keep the rabbits out necessarily. These guys are starting to put tomatoes on pretty good back here. Alrighty, well, there's a quick little walkthrough of everything. Toward the end of July, we're hoping to continue to bring product to the market through the end of September anyway. Perhaps into October. We'll see how it goes. It's always a battle with nature, but 2 people can produce a lot of food. That's was a volunteer cucurbit of some sort. Excuse me, I don't know if that's going to be a cantaloupe or a watermelon or what it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a watermelon. Probably some kind of squash. Maybe it'll be butternut. And this is stevia, which you can eat fresh off of the bush. Just snip you a leaf. And it's pretty tasty. And buy the prepared in the store. Alright. I don't have any particular words of wisdom today.